Welcome to episode 9. Thank you guys for joining. Today I sit down with Mauricio Guerrero, who's a 6-time Grammy Award-winning mixing engineer and producer. A little bit about Mauricio. He was born in Santiago, Chile. He's worked with Humberto Gatica, Gloria Estefan, Phil Collins, Shakira, Placido Domingo, Jose Feliciano, Raphael, Mijares, Lucero, and a host of other Latin artists. In 1997, he won his first Grammy for his work on Luis Miguel's Romances album. He received a second Grammy for Gloria Estefan's Alma Caribeña CD, and the same year he received a third Grammy for Shakira's MTV Unplugged CD. Once again, in 2005, Mauricio was called to work with Shakira on Fijación Oral Volume 1 and received 2 additional Grammys in 2006. One of these 2 awards is his most prized Grammy for Best Engineered Recording. Mauricio has worked with legendary songwriter and producer Rudy Perez on projects that range from Beyonce to Los Temerarios. During this time, Rudy asked him to produce Beyonce vocals in Spanish for a Michelle Obama campaign to fight child obesity called Let's Move. He also was called to produce vocals in Spanish for Natalie Cole for a CD she was later to release. In the summer of 2012, Mauricio had the honor of being a part of Maxime Vengerov's latest CD recording in Gland, Switzerland. Maxime is arguably one of the top 3 violin players in the world. This same year, he received his 6th Grammy for his work on Pepe Aguilar's Más de un Camino. Mauricio reunited with one of his mentors, Emilio Estefan Jr., and together they have been working on a number of new projects that will be coming out in the next few months, with artists like Italian tennis trio Il Volo, Gloria Estefan, and many more to come. Currently, Mauricio is developing a space entertainment company that will revolutionize both the space and entertainment industry by producing various first-in-history events that will combine music and cutting-edge technology. These events will capture the attention of the masses, and his aim is to create awareness of the fragility of our planet and the urgency to do something before it's too late. Throughout the podcast, Mauricio and I talk about his upbringing, his experience in the music industry, what it takes to produce and mix a Grammy Award-winning record, and then the advice that he has also for those that are trying to aspire to be a producer or a mixing engineer at the highest level. I think you guys are going to enjoy the episode. And without further ado, episode number 9. Welcome to Sir Kevin Says, episode number 9. Today I am with Mauricio Guerrero. Mauricio is a Grammy Award-winning producer. Mauricio, how you doing?
Pretty good, thank you.
Yeah, everything well?
Everything great.
What are you working on these days?
Well, I just finished a project. It's the next Gloria Estefan's album.
Nice.
And I'm getting ready to start working on The Wailers.
Okay.
So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Nice. Now, Mauricio, how did the story start for you? You were born in
Chile.
Chile, okay. Yeah.
Yes.
When did you know you wanted to become a producer?
Well, it's a long journey.
We got the time.
Basically, I mean, I remember I was a little kid and I remember I was grounded for a summer because I wasn't a well-behaved kid back then. So I didn't have anything to do. So my only thing to do was to grab a guitar and learn how to play it. So that was my summer. And after that, I started learning how to play drums. And then little by little, music was part of my life without me even knowing it.
Yeah.
And nobody in my family are musically, inclined. They like music, but my mom used to be, my grandfather made her study classical piano.
Okay.
She went through the whole conservatory program. She graduated from the conservatory as a pianist, I guess.
Yeah.
And the day she graduated, she stopped playing. Because it wasn't in her. She was made to.
Yeah.
By my grandfather.
Yeah.
So we had a piano at home and nobody touched it. So since I was a kid, I started kind of like putting my hands into instruments and just experimenting. And when I was about to finish high school, um, because I was good at math and physics, the counselors said, "You know what? You have to be an engineer."
Mm.
So I went to engineering school, and I started studying civil engineering. And I studied for 3 years. I finished my third year, and while I was studying engineering, I mean, more and more, I was like, I mean, regretting the fact that I was studying engineering. And I was teaching math and physics to like architecture students,
Okay.
stuff like that. And all the money I made, I would invest it into instruments. So I had a rehearsal room at the house where I had everything: drums, bass,
Yeah. Yeah.
guitars, piano, everything. And I mean, I made my way through college playing in clubs with my guitar and singing while I was studying engineering. So it got to a point where I was studying for a test, and I would look at my piano and go like, okay, 10 minutes, and then 2 hours later, I'm like, oh crap,
Yeah.
I need to study,
Yeah.
and it became unbearable. So I finished my third year, and I told my parents, no, I'm not gonna go back to engineering school, and they freaked out
Mm.
because I come from a family that they're all traditional professionals
Yeah. Okay.
and brilliant. I mean, my dad is a lawyer and an economist, and there was this thing that was created in South America back in the 70s that it was the South American version of the European Union. It
Okay.
was called Pacto Andino. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but my dad was one of the founders. So we had to go to Peru, and we lived there for 7 years. Um, as I said before, my dad was a lawyer and an economist. My mom was a lawyer. My sister, a very well-known economist. My other sister is a teacher. My brother is a psychologist, and I'm the black sheep. You know,
Mm.
I'm quitting engineering school, and I'm going to do something related with music.
Yeah.
So um, I knew I wasn't going to go back to engineering school. So I said, what's something that can uh, connect both worlds for me, the scientific, technological world and the music world? And at the same time, I knew that because I didn't want to concentrate on one instrument,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going to be like an amazing musician because I wanted to play with everything.
Sure. Sure.
So musician was out of the question. So I entered the conservatory back home in Chile to study recording engineering.
Wow.
And I started from scratch. And 4.5 years later, I graduated on a Thursday. And Saturday, I was flying to LA just to find my way.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that's kind of like my,
Your beginnings.
yeah.
You also read music, correct?
Yeah.
I remember I was in a class with Carlos Campos, and he said, that you were on staff at the school, and he mentioned that one thing that you have as an advantage as not just being a producer that plays multiple instruments, but you can read a chart, and,
Right.
and be able to tell where a musician or is making a certain mistake or address that certain thing. Do you think that's a very important quality for a producer?
Definitely. I don't know if I'm going to make people upset, but I think that someone that doesn't know music can be a producer because if you don't know music, you can relate to a certain point to the musicians and to the artists and to whoever you're working with.
Mm-hmm.
Once you pass that that point, there's no common ground because you can talk, you know, feelings, you can talk colors, but when you go straight to the point, it's all about music,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there's harmonic concepts, there's melodic
Right.
concepts, there's rhythmic concepts that it's a lot easier to to explain or to talk about when you have a common language.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you can have a lot of like how do you call it, gut feeling, like you can kind of like
Like an intuition of some sort.
intuition,
Sure. Uh-huh.
but it'll bring you to a certain point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as an engineer, I think that made a difference in my life and took me to the next level as an engineer because I was able to read a chart.
Mm.
Because I was working with the Vine Street Horns, who's Phil Collins' horn
Yeah.
section,
Mm-hmm.
and I became part of the Vine Street Horns. So every time they would call them for a session, I would go with them. I would set up, get sounds, and then I would start the recording. So we would start like, okay, first 8 bars, let's go, boom. Okay, let's punch in beat 3 of bars 6 till, beat 1 of bar 8, for instance. And it would be punching in and out. And back then it was tape, so
Yeah.
you had to be on.
Yeah.
So and then okay, let's double. Boom, boom. So we were working like very fast. And then after the first few bars, I would have the other engineer come and take over. And 80% of the time, I would be back on the seat like in no time, because they didn't read music,
Yeah.
so it was impossible for them to follow. Can you count for me?
Yeah.
So it's it's I don't want to say names, but I remember working with this one of the top producers in the world.
Mhm.
And he was working with an engineer, and I was assisting that engineer. We were recording a very famous Brazilian percussionist, and it was a huge album, I remember. And so the producer is telling the musician, okay, we're gonna come in, bar 45, beat 3. And the engineer I was working for, that I was assisting at the time, he didn't read music. He didn't know. So I would stand behind the producer, looking at the chart, and I would go like 1, and he would punch in.
Wow.
After a few times, he would give me the machine, and okay, you punch in, and I would take over. And I was just starting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so because of that relationship with Harry Kame and the Vine Street Horns, it got to a point where Phil Collins wanted to go on the road and with a big band and play his greatest hits and Genesis' greatest hits in big band style.
Mm.
But he doesn't read music. So he had Harry set up a whole big band session here at a rehearsal studio in LA. And he needed to record it. So Harry called me. I brought my whole studio to the rehearsal room and I recorded everything. And then I brought it back home, mixed it, and sent Phil a copy with the whole thing and a copy without drums. And there's a documentary where he's working on one of his albums. Into the Light, I think is the album.
Okay.
And he receives a DAT from me. And on the documentary, he goes, okay, this is a project that I'm working on, this big band. Let me listen to it. And the guy is like, wow, this sounds like a record. And I mean, a couple of months later, I get a phone call from his office saying, what are you doing this summer? And I said, whatever you guys want.
Yeah.
But the reason why I was there was because I was able to read music.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that, brought me to the next level.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah.
What was your first major gig as a producer and engineer?
As an engineer, I think Phil's
Yeah.
project was the biggest, the first big project.
Yeah. And what year was that?
96.
96. Okay.
Yeah.
And then following Phil, what did you get involved with after that? Because you've done stuff with Gloria, with
Yeah.
Shakira, you know.
Yeah, I worked with Gloria, but back in '89,
Okay.
mixing. Um, I don't want to lose you. That
Yeah.
song, and but it was they weren't even here. It was. Then we worked through the years, on and off. But after Phil, um, the next big project, and it was because of Phil, I think. It was Luis Miguel Romances.
Wow.
I got called for that gig, and that was my first Grammy.
Wow. How was that feeling like?
That's weird because I remember the first time. I mean, when I was living in Chile, my dream was to, make it big
Yeah.
and win a Grammy. But shortly after I got here, that changed, and that's it. Because I started meeting people like Grammy winner people, and I'm like,
Yeah.
if a Grammy means to be like that, I don't want to be like that.
Yeah.
So, and then it came by itself, So it
Wow.
wasn't that I was
Yeah.
working for it.
Right. Right.
And to me, I mean, it's great to win Grammys and all that, but it's not something that will change your life necessarily. Personally, it's like a recognition. But early on, and I think I told you guys during
Yeah.
classes, early on, I learned that you're as good as your last project,
Yeah.
because you can be doing great projects, working on great projects back to back for years. The first project that you didn't do a good job, everybody knows about it, and then, oh no, he's finished,
Yeah.
And I know a lot of guys that I've worked with throughout the years that they start losing that edge, and that's, I think, uh, when you're not that good anymore. When for instance, I have friends that are older than me, musicians, and they're still current because they're always listening. They're always trying to get the new sound.
Right.
I have other friends that are even younger than me that they're like content with what they have. So their sounds are dated. And I mean, you're done as a creator, as an artist, as a musician, as a producer, even as an engineer. You're done when you don't have that drive to learn every day.
That's good.
There's a lot of things that have to kind of like work together in order for you to get it. A very important one is the artist you're working with.
Yeah.
It's not only because the artist is that big, because if you're there, you have to deliver. There's a thing that the biggest artists, they don't ask you, can you do this? They tell you, we need to do this. When can you have it?
Yeah.
It's a huge difference.
Right. Yeah.
And it's not that they're not being polite, or you're there because you're better than what they had in the past.
Yeah.
Because they heard what you do and they want to, get what you can bring to the table. So it's not a question of, can you do it? It's, it's like, okay, we want to do this.
Yeah.
When can you have it done?
Right.
So with Phil, with Gloria, Shakira, they're all like that, and Luis Miguel, for instance, he expects, or back then, I haven't worked with him in years, but back then he expected the best, and the arranger slash producer back then. So I was the mixer on that project.
Okay.
And my Grammys have been as a mixer.
Okay. Got it.
Um, uh, it was Bebu Silvetti who, I used to admire. He was a very dear friend of me and my wife, and so I respected him so much because he had this special thing that nobody else had, and he knew that he could work alongside me and give Luis Miguel that, So that was a responsibility,
Yeah.
you know. So there's a lot of things that have to happen at the same time for you to be successful in terms of Grammys and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
When you go about mixing a record, what are some of the things you try to look for? What do you listen for when you're mixing records? As far as the instruments are concerned, obviously the vocals, all these things with these artists. What is the one thing that you would say you always? It's just customary for you to do this first and then you follow this, like, or do you have a certain format that you follow when you go about mixing?
Well, first of all, I analyze the song, um, and I try to get an idea of where the song is going.
Yeah.
Style wise,
Right.
even sound wise.
Yeah.
I produced this album for a Chilean band. It was 7 women. It was called Mama Soul. It's like an R&B funk
Okay.
thing. And even though having done all my career here in LA is like pop perfect,
Yeah.
everything tight, This project needed something different. So it's very raw. But it was nominated for a Grammy.
Wow.
You know,
Okay.
we didn't win because we were competing against Sin Bandera and they were at the top back then. So, but we approached it like a raw sound. I mean, you hear the drums are like they're not tight. They're kind of loose. The groove is there, but it moves.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but it's what the songs needed. But so the first thing you listen for is where that song wants to go, and then to me the first element that I would attack is the groove. For me, if a song, first of all, you can have the best artists, the best musicians, the best recorded sounds, but if it's not a good song, it's not gonna go anywhere.
Yeah.
So let's say we have a good song. The next thing you need to make sure that it's there is the groove. With no groove, it's like...
Yeah.
It happens to me that sometimes I've gotten tracks that are sloppy, and I tend to... it's subconscious, but I tend to hide stuff.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because it's not grooving.
Right.
So for me, groove is very important.
Yeah.
And then another thing that for me is very important, and what my mixes are known for, is that is the 3D image of the mix.
Okay.
I not only work left and right, but depth too, and I try to. You'll hear everything. I find a place for every little element, because if it's there,
it's
there for a reason.
Yeah. Right.
So that's what I try to do. And if you close your eyes and you listen to the mix, you have to feel like if you were the singer and the band surrounding you. That's kind of like the feeling I like to get from a mix.
Got it. At Shepherd, when you were teaching there, one of the things that you had your students do, I believe, was have them mix a song. What were you looking for when you had them mix a song? Like I think it had to be like a 2 or 3 minute song from us, right?
Right.
What were you trying to pay attention to when it came to that?
Balance. Because what I hear a lot with like students or new engineers,
Mm-hmm.
like with not much experience, is that things are fighting with each other. Like elements are fighting with each other to be in front. You can have uh, a, a song with a lot of elements, you know, and everything can sound kind of like in your face
Mm-hmm.
without being in your face.
Yeah.
You know, have a huge spectrum where you can place things.
Right.
So then balances. I mean, for instance, drums. Uh, drums are not kick, snare, hi hat, toms, cymbals. You know, drum kit is a kit, so it has to sound like a kit. You know, it's one instrument that has a few different elements,
Yeah.
but it's one instrument. You know, and it has to be organic, I guess, in itself.
Right.
So same thing. For instance, percussion. Um, there's always in percussion. That's a personal view, but I hear dialogue. Like some elements doing something here. There's another
Oh
element doing
yeah.
something here. So you play with that dialogue. You know. So if you put everything in the middle, nothing's gonna be clear. But if you start placing things, and it's not like or left or right, or,
Yeah.
you know, you have a whole spectrum in this way too. You know. So I mean, for me, a great mix is when you hear it, you close your eyes, as I said, you feel like the band surrounding you, and then if you hear with headphones, there's things that are like, wow,
Yeah.
wow,
Exactly.
you know.
Yeah.
To me, that's a good mix,
Yeah.
you know. And what I was looking for was kind of like making the students understand that mixing is about balance. Um, that not because you have all the plugins in the world,
You should use.
you have to use them,
Yeah.
you know. Because I mean, sometimes I mean, whenever because I would mix something and show them, and purposely I would use the basic plugins from Pro Tools that come with Pro Tools. I would never use something that, you know, to show them that you can do a great job with like stock, you know.
Yeah. Stock plugins. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So it's a matter of uh, knowing how to use them, basically, and make and use them for the enhancement of the final product.
Right. Right. That
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah. When you work with different artists, let's take for example, Shakira that expects something from you. You know, you said earlier that you are there because you obviously bring something to the table that someone else did not. How's the process like working with these artists? Your relationship with them. Are they there when you mix? Do they give their own input of what they want to hear? How does that work?
Yeah, for the most part, they're there. You know, like Shakira, she's there. She's not. I mean, usually they're not uh, like on your back, like,
Yeah, yeah,
you know. No, no, I don't like that. It happens with some artists. Like they say, okay, uh, do what you want, you know, and then you start like experimenting because mixing is also about experimenting, trying things,
yeah.
going, you know, over the top, so you can, you know, then back off,
Exactly.
and then they will go like, "What are you doing? That doesn't sound good." And it's like, you know, but for the most part, they're very respectful and they let you do whatever you want. Sometimes they'll go like, "Wow, that's nice." That's it, you know.
Yeah.
But it's it. I mean, they'll tell you what they want. Um, they give you a certain amount of time in the beginning so you can set up a basic mix, and then you ask for their opinion, and they'll give you their opinion, and from there
Yeah.
They
You take
start
off.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they come back, they listen, they give you more comments. So that's kind of like a back and forth.
Yeah. Are any of these artists like? Would you say that you call them friends, or is it just like you mix the album and then that's you kind of hands off, or
Yeah, some of them are.
so your friends?
Yeah, like with Phil,
Yeah.
he's. I mean, I worked with him the last time back in '98, and he still sends handwritten Christmas cards. You know,
Wow.
every time I mean, we're in Europe and he's there. I mean, we see each other.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I worked with him 2 years ago. I forgot on a live show, but it wasn't a record.
Okay. Okay.
Um, I helped his nonprofit, his charity that he has. He used to have it in Switzerland, and now he moved to Miami with a charity, and I'm not involved anymore. Then with Gloria Estefan and Emilio, it's like
Yeah.
they're family.
Right.
You know?
Right.
There's, I mean, some people. I mean, Luis Miguel for a while was like, he's been to the house,
Right. Right.
So
What would you say is your greatest accomplishment?
my family,
And why would that be?
because I think that it's what's going to be with you forever.
Yeah.
I made a decision. I mean, talking about Gloria and Emilio, early '90s. Let's see, no, early 2000s. Both of my kids, Mauricio and Sebastian, were growing up. Were little still, but I wasn't around because I was in Miami all the time. And I made the decision to stop going because I didn't want them to grow up without me being around.
Right.
And that made a huge difference because with both of them, I'm like friends.
Yeah.
And we hung out.
Right.
Which is, I mean, with Mauricio Jr., we're buddies.
Yeah.
And the only reason why that is possible is because I put him before work. When I came back to LA, it was like months without work, But, I was also, at that time, I grew up Catholic, and we became Christians. And so I was like buried in my Bible, reading scripture. So that helped me. I mean, and in a way, I didn't want to work because I went to read the Bible. It was my first time, and I was like,
like an enlightenment of some sort.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's been our the center of our family life.
Yeah.
So I think that's my biggest accomplishment.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
now that they're both
older,
they're on their own, doing their own thing. I mean, I can go out again. I've been traveling like crazy the last 3-4 years, but now I can.
Now they're growing up,
Yeah.
over the age of 18.
Yeah.
You said it wasn't a goal of yours to win a Grammy, but was it ever a goal of yours to become known as a someone that does mixing for a living? Like, I want to be known, and I want it to be something that is credible, that people value my work.
I guess so. I'm sure I didn't want to be just one more. You always try to be the best at what you do. I think the way I looked at it was a very specific example. I was back home. I told you when I first came here, I wanted to win a Grammy. And there was another thing that I wanted to do because I had heard an album that had blown me away from the sound perspective. And it was a Fleetwood Mac album. I don't remember the name of the album, but it came out like in '87, somewhere there. And I came to LA in '88. And I wanted to be able to create a sound like that. So it was a very specific, tight sound that I fell in love with. And I said, I want to be able to do that. So what I meant after years of working, now I understand what I meant. I wanted to create my own sound, you know, and that's when people start recognizing you and calling you because they want your sound,
Right. Right.
you know. And it's funny because some people see you in a certain way, and some other people, like, and that's because you're a musician and you. I mean, some people love the way I record. I mean, the first thing was horns, you know, so that's why I got the gig with Phil. But then, because I work with Luis Miguel, vocals, you know, and my wife's a singer. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, vocals. Like for instance, Il Volo, I produced all the vocals for Il Volo and their latest album, and I produced Gloria's vocals, you know, because somehow I have that empathy, I guess, with the
Right.
artists, and I make them feel good, and
Yeah.
I'm able to get the best out of them. So people say, "Oh no, he's a vocal engineer." With Beyonce, same thing. Beyonce, I've only recorded vocals with her, but it got to a point where she said, "You tell me when I'm done,"
Wow.
and I'm like, "Are you serious?" And then when she says goodbye, she hugs me and she goes like, "This wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for you." And
Wow.
I'm going like, "Come on, you're Beyonce."
Yeah.
And she goes, "No, no, no, I'm serious." You know, it's funny because we're doing this takes after take after take, and I'm in my head when I'm doing vocals, I'm like playlisting, and I'm thinking, okay, I have this part, okay, I have this part, I need this part, I need this phrase. So I'm quick at it. But every pass was better than the
The
previous
previous.
one. So with my wife being a singer, I grabbed my phone and I call her and I put the phone on the console and I just left it there. So she's hearing, and they were having lunch with Mauricio and Sebastian, and they're hearing Beyonce singing over
That's
and over and over.
incredible.
And it's like, it was too much, man. She's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so, but then I mean, I've done so many orchestra sessions
Yeah.
that people call me because of my sound, like orchestra sound.
Right. Right.
You know? And now, so I remember I mean, the way, because I had done I Don't Want to Lose You, in Emilio's mind, I was a ballad engineer. And then in '99, he called me to mix the three ballads on Gloria's De Mi Alma Caribeña.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That was for that. You wasn't that for 2001? Was
no,
it
it was 1999,
1999? Okay. Okay.
and it came out in 2000.
And then you won the Grammy
Yeah.
in 2001, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Just making.
And so I was called, and the rest of the album was already mixed. So I go to mix the three ballads, and then he goes like, "Can you try mixing this song?" And I ended up remixing the whole album, you know. And so now some people call me because of my percussion sound. So
Yeah.
you know,
Multiple things.
yeah, but to me, I mean, if I have to say what is my signature sound, is definition, I guess. You know, everything is defined, and no matter how many elements are in the mix, you can hear everything and very clearly.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. What continues to inspire you as a mixing engineer, doing the records that you have, winning the awards that you have? What's the one thing that continues to inspire you as a mixing engineer, as a musician as well? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, being able to stay current.
so stay like relevant with today's
Yeah.
sound as
Yeah.
well. Okay. Yeah.
Like that Il Volo album was a big thing because it was. I mean, there are three tenors from Italy, and they're singing Latin urban music.
Yeah.
So it's
Right. Right.
you know, and to make it sound, even though I don't do urban music, make it sound so it can live within that world, you know.
So like when let's when you mixing, let's say, a new sound, something you've never covered before, do you listen to other projects, albums that cover just that style, just so you kind of have an idea?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. But it's not that I want to copy because that wouldn't be me,
Right.
right? I need to. It's basically a research. You know, I listen for vocal sounds, for vocal effects. I listen for low end, for instance, like in the case of urban music. Um, I start analyzing the genre, and then I see the elements that I have. You know, and there's another thing that I agree 200% with Emilio is that never do something that's already been done. You know, and that's why he's so successful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Always bring the next new thing. And I tell Mauricio too. I mean, it's like when you come up with something new, you can use elements from your influences, and you can mix them together. You know, try to put something new. So people say, "I think I've heard this, but
I can't pinpoint where.
exactly, you know, because it has some influences from
Right.
different people, but it's you."
Yeah.
That's what John Mayer did.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
so
And you work with John Mayer too, right?
no,
No, you haven't.
I
Okay. Okay.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
No,
For some reason, I thought you had done at least vocals, but
no,
no. Okay.
no, I haven't worked with him. But I mean, it's to me, come up with a new thing that, like, for instance, the single that came out from Il Volo, Noches sin Día,
Mhm.
with Gente de Zona. If you hear it, it is urban, but it has something that no other urban record has.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, wow,
Different.
yeah.
Yeah.
From the production perspective, and I mean from the final product, sound,
Right.
everything, mixing, everything,
Yeah.
it's different, you know, and that's what keeps me kind of like excited about doing it.
Yeah.
You know, how do we make it different? Because I mean, talking about John Mayer, if somebody comes out, the next John Mayer is the next John Mayer.
That's
You
funny.
know?
Yeah.
It's not the new guy.
Right. Right.
I mean, every artist that made a difference, that hit it big, is because they brought something new to, I mean, to the picture.
Yeah. So it's always like a matter of rediscovering of some sort, not necessarily because you want to emulate what sounded great, but you want to make it better and make it your own sound. Um,
And keep it fresh.
yeah. And current.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Camila Cabello, for instance.
Right.
You know, it's so simple.
Yeah.
And she mixed up a few different things.
Right.
Right. And so, I mean, it was a huge hit.
Yeah.
Because it's fresh. But it's relatable. It's like, I've heard that before.
Yeah.
I mean, that progression, you know.
Oh, yeah. Wait, Havana?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you've heard it so many times. Santana, you know, how many
Right.
people that have used that? I mean, Mana, you
Yeah.
know. But she made it different.
That's good.
Yeah. So, and it doesn't have to be like, I mean, a huge difference, but an element that nobody else has, and that makes it fresh.
Yeah, that's fair. How have you incorporated your faith into doing what you do? How have you said that, when after I believe in the early 90s or late 90s when Mauricio and Sebastian.
Early 2000s.
Early 2000s, okay. You came back home, you came to LA, you became a believer. Decisions that you make musically as an engineer, has your faith somewhat influenced your decisions? Like, I won't do this project because of this?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, there's a few projects where I remember there was a point, and there was a point where I got called for this project. It was a big band. I mean, not big band, but a big band.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, it was pretty well known, and they were doing this album, and then they sent one of the songs, and I'm reading the lyrics, and the lyrics were talking about this demigod, that got drunk on plum wine. It's like and created handicapped people. It was a weird thing. I mean, I read because they're talking about this god,
Yeah, yeah.
and I researched that god, and then there was that story, so it was hidden. And I called them and I said, I can't do this. And they said, no, it's the only song that's like that. And I said, yeah, I'll mix the rest of the album, but not
Not
that
this song.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they said, yeah, but I said, no, sorry, I can't. And it was a lot of money, and I was out of work.
Wow.
But and then right after it, there's this lady that came. She needed studio, and she was paying like top dollar for the studio. She wanted to record her audiobook, and she was gonna be chanting weird things and everything. And I said, you know what?
Yeah.
I can't. And I sent her to a friend of mine that's not a believer. And I said, if you want to do that, it's big money, it's good money, and
Right.
so I turned it down, man. And it was, back to back, these two things. And I'm like, what am I gonna do now? But God's faithful, man.
Yeah. Open more doors for you and
Yeah.
bigger doors.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. What advice would you have for up and coming engineers, those that want to do their own projects at home? What's grown in the last, I would say 10 years or so is in-home studios.
Mm-hmm.
People that are producing records and doing their own things at home because they don't want to pay the big bucks, elsewhere. But what would you say, is your biggest advice to them if they're trying to get their careers going?
Well, first of all, be musical. Even as an engineer, you have to be musical. If you don't know music, study music. Listen to a lot of music. Even if what you're doing is just a beat, and a top liner. Listen to music in all genres, because people sometimes ask me, "Well, you studied engineering. Is math or all those things? Have you used it?" And I say, "Well, it opened my mind to so many things, and I can analyze things because of that type of training,
Right.
and come up with a better decision." So, to listen to music and listen all sorts of different genres is so your mind grows as a musician.
Right.
That's the first thing. Second thing, don't do it for money.
That's good. No,
Because
that's
if you
very
want to
good.
do it for money, you're better off working somewhere else.
Yeah.
And the other thing is always learn. You will never stop learning.
Yeah.
Once you think you don't have anything else to learn, you need to do something else. And the other thing would be honest with yourself. Do what makes you feel fulfilled. With the people that you're working. I've changed environments so many times.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't happy with the people I was working with, and that's scary. And because you're starting basically from scratch.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you need to be comfortable when you're working and not, enjoy what you're doing. That's, I think, a big part of being able to do it for forever.
What does value mean to you, and how important is that word when you think about it?
Value, like
Value, as in when your work is worth something to you. Obviously, you have a certain standard that you uphold when people reach out to you and say, for example, I can pay you this amount, and it's significantly lower than what you would charge for a record, or to mix, or what have you. When you think about value, uh, how do you go about that? How do you go about making sure that those that are hiring you for your work are going to get the best from you, but also understand that they also have to give the best to you,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to negotiate, especially with. I mean, when people look at you from you know different perspectives, like like I got a call from this guy, and he goes, you know what, I need to mix an album. I don't have a record label. So when they start uh, giving you that type of story, you're kind of like, okay. So
Mm.
I mean, first of all, never ever do it for free. Unless it's a very special situation.
Yeah,
Where,
or an investment of some sort.
right.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but sign a paper.
Yeah.
Never do it like, I mean, I don't know how many times they've told me, can we work on the demo, and when the final, I mean, when they approve and give me the budget, we'll do the album. And then next thing you know, the album is on the shelves and somebody else did it. I mean, it happened to me many times. So everything in writing. First of all, that's very
That's
important.
good. Yeah.
Everything in writing. Even if it's, I mean, $100 a song, whatever, in writing. You when you don't know the people, and when you know the people, yeah, you have to have something like a one-page contract, something. So you cover yourself, and you don't lose a friendship because of you know misunderstandings.
Right.
Um, Now you have a certain, and I've been talking to Mauricio about it. You have a range, right? There's a minimum that you think that you can go down to. There's a minimum, and I mean, below that, it's not worth your time. You know, I rather recommend somebody else than do it for, you know. So I tell them, this is how much I charge. I can go down to this, you know, and also, for instance, if they ask you for a mix, okay, I'll mix a song for X, and then you have 3 recalls. Yeah. So I send you the first one, you give me some comments, send it, more comments, send it, last comments,
Yeah.
because
They'll go back and forth.
yeah, I work with this Korean band, and it's like
Yeah.
it was ridiculous. It was ridiculous to the point I said, you know what? Here's the studio, you finish it,
Yeah.
and I don't want my name on the album. That's what I ended up saying. And they spent here like a week.
Oh my god.
The guy sent me, okay, zero point 0.1 dB up.
Oh my goodness.
No, it's too much. It's like, can you hear that? you know, and I mean, and it's talking. I mean, you can hear it when it's vocals and stuff like that. You can feel it more than hear it.
Right.
But when you're talking about like a shaker, for instance, you know, 0.1 dB down, 0.3, no, 0.2. Oh yeah, there, perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
So so that's what I do usually. I mean, you have to if you don't charge something that you feel it's fair, they won't respect you.
Hmm.
People rather go for the more expensive stuff because
Right.
they feel more secure, more
Yeah.
confident than if you tell them, no, I'll do it for free, or I'll do it for $10. You know, you have to set a range.
Yeah, that's fair.
If I work for a record label, this is how much. If I work for like an independent label, that for an independent artist, this. For just somebody that is just, I mean, raising funds to do the song, this much, but that's it.
Yeah.
You know, so
Mauricio, thank you for your time. Thank you so
pleasure,
much,
man.
man. It was awesome to learn. This is a little new to me too. You know, I've mostly been sitting with musicians and artists, but this is my first time with the mixing engineer. So thank you for separating some time to do this, man.
My pleasure.
Thank you for checking out episode number 9 with Mauricio Guerrero. Stay tuned for the next one. Thanks for checking out episode number 9. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Episode number 10 comes out next week with another Grammy Award winner. I want to say the name, but I'd rather you guys just check it out and let me know what you guys think. So see you guys next week.